In this module, we're going to explore anxiety when we're speaking, especially speaking to groups or someone we perceive to be very important. We're going to talk about how anxiety shows up, how it affects the communication, how it affects the way we speak and listen. We're also going to talk about how we can navigate these difficulties and create what we call emotional fluency. Now, I know many people, especially professionals, academics, etc., they feel it's so important to speak English with absolute perfection. Well, I'd say that's impossible. I don't know any native English speaker who speaks with perfection, although they speak very well and very effectively. If you're trying to be perfect and you're worried about your grammar and your vocabulary, that can actually make you nervous. And it means you sound far worse than you really are. Good news is, when we are anxious, as long as we train ourselves to recognize it whilst we're speaking, we can do something about it there and then. Let me give you an example. I remember being at a meeting with something I really wanted to say, but I was scared, even terrified that the way it sounded would be completely wrong. And I wanted to sound perfect in front of this group of academics. So, in order to not to make any mistakes, in order not to show people how bad my English was or even is, I chose to say nothing. Nobody heard my message. We're here today to try and help you have your message heard. So you're not in the position I was, regretting never saying what I really needed to say. I noticed at that time when I really needed to speak, and there was lots of difficulties going on in my life at the time. But the more I wanted to speak, the more anxious I was getting. The more I became desperate to speak, the worse the situation got until I just gave up. And I don't want you to be in that position. And then over time, even over years, I realized I have to do something about this. Now, whenever that happens, I pause, I take a breath, I notice my body, I focus on what I truly want to express. When I do that, my voice becomes calmer and people actually listen to me more attentively. So what's happening when anxiety strikes you? Your body reacts, your muscles will tense, maybe your heart rate rises, your breath shortens, the pitch of your voice goes up, you begin to speak quicker, makes you sound really nervous. The solution is not to fight this anxiety. Instead, it's the opposite. Work with the anxiety. Notice it. Name the feeling to yourself. I'm anxious right now. What I often do, I take a sip of water, even a sip of coffee. In my culture, that's acceptable. Eating while I'm talking is not acceptable in any way. Having a sip of a drink certainly is. It gives me time to relax, to name the feeling to me. I can feel my feet on the floor. I do all this in a microsecond and it just calms me down. I'm aware I'm anxious. But because I'm aware, I realize I have to carry on. And the anxiety goes. It's when I wasn't aware that I was anxious that I had problems and where I wouldn't speak. I had one instance where I was going to be speaking in front of 40 people, which for me at the time was a large group. And I went onto the stage and I realized immediately I'd misread the number of people and it wasn't 40, it was 400 people I was speaking to. I became aware of the anxiety. And in this instance, I looked around, I found a friendly face, I smiled and thought again, this could be good. This is an experience for me. Nobody's going to laugh if I say the wrong thing. Probably one of the best talks I ever did. My first talk in front of hundreds of people because I was aware of my anxious situation and I needed to do something about it instantly. And just having the awareness, finding a smiling face is all I needed at that time. What I was doing is shifting the attention from me, my self-conscious thoughts, to this other person who happened to be looking at me. And I did the same with a very soft focus. I was going around the room, seeing people I could hardly see, but I felt I was building a connection. I was no longer thinking of me. I was thinking of the group that I'd come to talk to. That made a huge difference to my anxiety. I was irrelevant. People I was speaking to, this huge group for me, they were the important ones. I put them first, and suddenly our talk was over after about half an hour. I realized I hadn't been anxious at all, apart from those first few moments. Thinking outwards rather than inwards is fantastic. Remember that emotional fluency, it's not rules and regulations, it's practice. It's not a destination. It's okay to feel anxious. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd say even world leaders feel anxious when they're going to give a talk. What matters is learning to respond with awareness and authenticity. Thanks for taking the time to explore this short module with me. Be gentle with yourself. If anything does go wrong, you're going to hit all the errors most people won't. Notice your progress, even the little moments where you stay present despite the anxiety. Before we go, I should talk about something that every one of us experiences at some point. It's when a speech, a presentation, it's when a speech or presentation does not go as planned, or when somebody says they didn't like it. On one occasion, I was doing a talk at an academic conference in Ireland. One guy, for some reason nobody really understood, just stood up towards the end of the speech and said that was rubbish and stormed out. Everybody else seemed to like it. The chair in charge of that particular meeting at a big conference, he just shrugged it off. He laughed, I laughed. We decided the guy possibly had a problem. Maybe I touched on a particular scenario that had traumatized him in the past. That was a big possibility, considering my background is working in peace processes and I was talking to all types of people from all types of backgrounds. You'll never know because he didn't give us a chance to explain why he thought the talk was rubbish. I'd have loved to have a good conversation with him, but he went, never saw him again. That's a learning experience. I'd say nowadays, maybe in every 100 talks I do, maybe 3 or 4, it's a slight problem, but I'm happy with over 90% being really good. Even when I'm making videos, when I'm talking to potential new clients, if 50% of the people don't like me, want to deal with me, that's fantastic because it means I've got a possibility of doing business with 50%. The work I do, I'm really only looking for a maximum of about 20 people that I talk to that I want to do more business with. And the same with them. There's probably 80% who don't really see any benefit in dealing with me. But for the 20% left, they seem to get huge benefits. And by that, I mean, there's some people I've spoken to over 500 times because they are getting something out of one. So don't worry if somebody doesn't like it. Don't go home. Don't cry. Don't think I'm terrible. Nobody in this earth is going to earn the respect of absolutely everybody. We cannot be liked by everybody. We don't like everybody. Some people we don't go with. Just get on with it. I'm sure the rest of the people thought you were great.